Okay, we'll finish off this callout box, and we're going to start with this image over here, which is where our button is. So let's jump back over to our HTML and recall that we set that up inside of our callout box as an anchor tag. So we're going to jump to our CSS and add some more rules down here at the bottom. So after the callout, I'm going to say dot callout space A for the anchor tag. We're going to set a few properties on this anchor tag to position it exactly where we want it so that we can make this button clickable. So the first thing we want to do is position this. So in order to position it, we want to use absolute positioning. So I need to set a position of relative onto this callout area, and I'll set position of absolute on this anchor tag. And I'm going to give it a width and a height of exactly the same size as this button right here. So roughly 150 by 50, just so we can see this while we're working with it. Height 50, and I'll give it a background color as well. And I'm going to give it a display of block. So I'll save that and refresh that so you can see that's where that beam me up text is going to be. And I'm going to position this element right over the top of this button over here. This is just one way to do it. I suppose another way would be to not include this button as part of the background image here, and then just use an image tag with an anchor inside of it where the entire button is clickable. That would probably be a little bit easier and a more logical way to do it, but we'll kind of continue with this method for now. Let's go ahead and move this. So this is going to be to the right. We'll just say 0 and refresh. So that sticks it over there. And we need to move it down and to the left. So if we come back to our Photoshop measure, we could get those exact values. It needs to come down about 15, and from the left, it needs to come over about 40. So we can say right 40 pixels and top 15. And that kind of lines it up. That's a little bit off, so 35 and maybe 10. That's probably going to be a little off as well, but that's pretty close. So now I can get rid of that. I can adjust the line height actually on this anchor tag as well. This is a little trick to make your text center itself, and you make the line height the same as the height. So we say 50 pixels, and that'll stick that right in the middle there. And then we can simply use positioning or whatnot or padding to bump it around. So this text needs to be bold, it needs to be a different color. And so let's get the color here from our color scheme. And the color of that text is just going to be a dark version of this green. We could maybe do it a brown as well. But let's come in here to this button and get that color. So I'll get my type tool here, or first I'm going to select that layer and let's highlight it and get that text, and it looks like it's just black with opacity. So that's actually just got some opacity on it. Whoops. Turn off those slices I just accidentally turned on. So we'll go to show and over to slices and turn those off. And we'll zoom in here, get our eyedropper tool and sample that and get that color of green. It's kind of a dark green there. Come over here and set the color here. Make sure we have the pound sign. Now like it's green, let's remove the underline. So that's text dash decoration none. And we're going to say font weight bold. Okay, so that's looking good. And I want all of the text for my Insight to be in that Myriad Pro. So I'm actually going to come all the way up to the top to that body tag. And we'll just set this right now. So I'm just going to set font family to Myriad Pro. You'll set this to whatever font you're, of course, working with for your site. That way all of the fonts are Myriad Pro now. And let's remove that red color down there and make that font a little bit bigger. So we'll take off the background color of red so we can see exactly where that's lining up. And we, of course, just need to position that over a little bit more. So we'll take that right value and maybe bump that back down to 0. And that's pretty close right there. Maybe it needs to come down just a hair. So we'll take maybe top 12 pixels to kind of center it up inside of there. You can see anywhere I hover over this button, is going to allow me to click and go to that link. And so we'll call that good now for that little button. So we'll fix next this header 2 and then this span tag. So back to our HTML, let's create another rule right here. We're going to call this .callout h2, and this header 2 is going to have a lot of the same properties this header 2 did up here. So I'm going to copy the color and the size, and the that's probably all this guy is going to need for now. We'll come back inside of here and paste those and save and refresh. So now that's got that. We're going to have to add a little bit of margin and padding inside of that header 2 to fix that. So let's give this guy an outline so we can see exactly where it's fallen in line. You can see that the header 2 is falling in line just like so. And let's make sure that our margins are set up just right. See how this blue border actually doesn't go all the way around the header 2? And that's because of the line height I set earlier. I set a 1.2 ems line height for the entire website. So if there's anything that doesn't have that line height, I either need to override it or do a different method. So I would set a line height as default and then change the line height maybe for only the paragraphs or text that I need the line height on. So I'm just going to override the line height here on this header 2. So I'll come into here and I'll say line height and just set that to 100%. So it's the same height as the element itself, and then you can see it in fact covers in there. So I'm just going to add maybe a little bit of padding to kind of poke this thing around a little bit. So maybe I'll add some padding dash left of 10 pixels and some padding dash top of 5 pixels. Kind of push that down in. I'll turn off the outline now because I don't need that anymore. We'll refresh. So there's that text there. Then I will just kind of add a little bit of text here to the span tag with one more rule, .callout span. And we'll add some padding dash left as well. And we'll set this equal to 10 pixels. Now, another method you could do is just add padding to the entire div so that no matter what, it was pushed in. So then you wouldn't have to add padding to every single individual element inside of that. On this outer div, we could add padding and they'd automatically line up. So that's maybe another method of working with this to avoid so much CSS. And we're going to say text dash decoration, and we're going to make this thing italics. Whoops, not text dash decoration. It's actually, I think, font dash style. And that's now italics, and maybe we'll go back here and look at our mock-up here to make sure this is lining up. So maybe we want to bump that down and bump both of those down. Right now they're a little top weighted. So we'll add some more padding top on that header 2. Maybe we'll say the top is 15. And let's kind of see how that affects that. Push those down. Maybe that's a hair bit much. So maybe 10 pixels is going to be about the magic number. And that's pretty close there. You can adjust those to center that up on your own. So there's our call out box with our little button to where we can click and go to a link. We have our boxes up here. And in the next video, we'll just move right on down and do those paragraphs of text.